start the meeting. Thank
Good evening,
you.
everyone. The time is 6:55. I apologize if I read something incorrectly. I do not have my glasses. So I just wanted to make that qualifying statement before we start. Agenda item number 1, public comments for the instructional committee.
Not at this time, sir.
Item number 2, items to be reviewed by the instructional committee for information only. A, review of legal policies in TASB update 119. I'm sorry. And for the record, we have Frank Castillo present, and I'm Javier Montemayor for the instructional committee. Review of policies, TASB update.
Good evening, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Castillo, members of the audience. Once again, we did present these at the business committee meeting. These are just review of legal policies. They're quite extensive. We have reviewed them at the administrative level. There's one recommendation I'll make at the local level so that we can comply with statute. But again, these are just a formality for review by you all, not necessarily approval.
Okay. Any questions? I do not know what they are, Ms. Rendon, but I wasn't part of the other committee, so. Presentation number 2, item 2B.
You want to briefly say what they are, or?
Oh, sir, I could be here for 2 hours if I allow that, but.
No, I said briefly.
That is brief, sir. That would be brief. Basically, there's so many dealing with your elections, board members' authority, compensation expenses. One of them that stands out, of course, that we're looking at, I mean, these are just all legal policies. We look at duties and responsibilities of you all. But again, administration has reviewed our policies. We're trying to align the local policies now. We have made some recommendations. And when I come back up for the 119 local policies, I can be a little bit more specific with those particular items.
Yeah, and just remember, Mr. Montemayor and Mr. Castillo, that the legal policies that come down from TASB are basically recitations of statute and regulation. So the local policies that Mr. Rendon's going to go over later are more so board implemented.
Thank you.
Items to be reviewed, item 2B, presentation of elementary and secondary school emergency relief, SR3, return to in-person instruction and continuity services and use of funds plan revision.
Good evening, Mr. Montemayor and Mr. Castillo. What we're going to present to you is a quick overview of our use of funds of SR3. The grant itself requires us to do a 6-month update more on the return to in-person instruction and continuity of services, and then we give you an update of our use of funds. You'll see there that of the $127.5 million, I kind of highlighted some areas where you see the majority of our money, $28.2 million in learning acceleration. You'll see a breakdown of where those funds are being allocated to or have already been spent. And then on the family engagement, we did open that center this past spring. High quality instructional materials, those are online programs that the CNI have recommended and have our teachers use. The other one is the wraparound services, where we have hired the licensed counselors. And on safety, we are still planning to do the UVC germicidal project, which we'll probably be bringing either in August or September. We have gone out for proposals on that project. And then we still have funds set aside for other prevention and mitigation strategies, such as we still have COVID teams, nurse aides, and other strategies that we've done, outdoor benches. We're working on the water bottle filling stations, and we have purchased the pre-K tables to be able to maneuver the kids, kind of to separate them in their classrooms. The big chunk of money is now being allocated to help us with our revenue shortfall. We estimate about $52 million between the next 2 years, this year and next year. We have set aside the $15 million that the board approved for the one-time payment that y'all approved last month, the $2,000 for all full-time employees. But we are still on schedule to spend more than 20% on learning loss. So again, 6 months from now, we'll bring you an update again. And then the second half of the presentation is Ms. Rendon to talk about return to in-person instruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you find it at the bottom?
Which one is it? Go top one. This one?
We go back to our protocols and procedures that we had in place. We revised them so many times, but these were the final revisions that were made back in February for the spring semester and for actually the last 9 weeks of the school year. And so we are revisiting those particular protocols with regards to what we have done and the effectiveness of each of these particular strategies. The mitigation is probably the biggest component with regards to what we want to do to prevent. We have continued to keep a tab on the TA updates and so forth, but there has been nothing new with regards to COVID. And we kind of expected that because it's summer. A lot of our students are not necessarily in school. So we'll continue to hone in on those particular areas. But what we look at is, we know that, of course, masks, we'll recommend. Towards the latter part of the school year, your elementary students were probably more prone to wearing those as opposed to your secondary students. We will continue to promote self-screening, not only for staff, but also for students. And we look at visitors. And I think that is probably something that is a good takeaway from our COVID and the pandemic year with regards to how we conduct business with our parents, where we Zoom, we meet with them through Google as well. And so that has been pretty effective because it's not only convenient for the campus administrator, but also for the parent as well. And so we will continue to COVID test. And of course, we can't require anyone to COVID test, but just anybody who would ask. In our athletic fields and departments, fine arts, it's only for those individuals who are showing symptoms as well. It got a little bit excessive in that sense, where it was, it takes too much manpower to go in and do 300 assessments for a band every week and so forth. So we're looking at symptoms only. And of course, we look at the vaccination. And just this week, we will have another vaccine clinic in our community, our pediatric. We were a provider, designated as a provider for pediatric vaccines for the 6 month and above. And so we have all types of vaccines. We have boosters, we have vaccine number 1, Pfizer, Moderna, and we also have the vaccines for the pediatric the babies, what we call. And so we had been waiting for that one. Last week, we depleted our inventory with regards to the pediatric. We actually had to shut down our site. And so we just opened that up today for Thursday.
How many vaccines did you get?
Oh, about 220, sir. But a little right under 250. But it was a max that we weren't provided
Did
with.
they finish the same day?
Yes, sir. That particular day. We opened the vials, we defrosted the vials, and they were utilized all in one day. And so we're hoping that this Thursday is also, we're promoting that. School messengers went out today to all our parents. We have it on our social media sites as well, and we're promoting those particular events. Our nurses will continue those efforts after hours, because once we start school on August 10th, these clinics will probably have to go after hours, and more than likely on Saturdays as well. Mr. Gonzalez and the business office have approved for them to be compensated after hours, our school nurses and so forth, because it's been a very critical component with regards to making sure that everybody receives the proper vaccinations and the boosters that are required to assist. And so we look at our symptoms, that has not changed. And of course, we encourage individuals to stay home if they are showing any type of symptoms. We look at our student workflow, and the middle page is probably what is a key component. Anybody who is showing symptoms or is a yes student positive, we move to step 3, where we have remote conferencing due to a COVID-19. Only students who are COVID positive then will be allowed to be part of the remote conferencing, which of course is very beneficial. There is no learning loss because it's immediate. I think we've streamlined our processes and our procedures, and so it's one day you're out of school, and the following day, or maybe that particular same day, you're online with an online teacher receiving your homework and your classwork, so that you don't fall behind. And so we look at those particular items, and those, of course, we get ADA funding for those individuals who are on remote conferencing as well. All right, so we look at the close contacts. We have defined what close contacts is. We will continue to train our nurses and remind them for our employees and also for our students. And the workflow for our employees is very similar to our student, what we do for students, we do for employees and vice versa. And so this is our remote conferencing, that is on our webpage. It's a temporary medical condition. They apply, it takes them to this particular link, they submit, and they get their credentials to log in to a remote conference
Is that the only
class.
way you can do it,
Yes,
through
sir.
automation?
Yes, sir.
And there's no paper copies?
No, sir.
Nothing?
Well, the parents will receive an email with what they've
confirmation.
submitted. So we do make sure that the parents get the information that their students are registered for.
And those, sir, for those of you who do not, for those parents who do not have, we walk them through, we ask them questions online, the campus does, in case you're wondering for that. And then, of course, that is registered through us, and then we provide that copy.
That's why I was asking.
Yes, sir.
Some
I figured.
people might still be, like me, not completely literate in computer or savvy.
And they can also do it through their phone. So
Yeah.
that's why we say we've streamlined, I mean, we learned a lot last year
Okay.
to get this process going, because we know it's 5 days, and we also know we're going back to the 90% rule in attendance, so we want to make sure that they're, getting the work and they are attending.
Inform and up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 3, instructional items to be reviewed by the instructional committee with recommendations for action to be made at the next regular board meeting. A, approval of the updated vision and mission statement for United ISD.
Okay, now I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm in the business one. I got into the wrong one. Okay, sorry. Maybe if I put on my glasses, it will work. Yes, Mr. Montemayor, and we're bringing forward the vision statement. So the reason that we wanted to change our vision statement is because we want to make sure that everybody knows what our vision statement is, one, and we want to make sure that everybody's able to verbalize it. So right now, I did a little study, I asked around CNI, okay, so what is our vision statement? And I really had a hard time getting everybody to be able to answer. So as we're moving forward, we're empowering our students to become responsible global leaders. That's what we want to do. So even if anybody just remembers responsible global leaders, we know that we're working towards that vision for our students. And then our mission statement, we changed that one, just very minor, also making sure that we are providing the engaging and meaningful experiences so students achieve their full learning potential. Because everybody learns at different levels, we just want to make sure that every student is prompted, given the information, given the instruction, so that they can reach their potential, and hopefully we can move them forward as much as we possibly can. So that was really the only change. We did not change any of our goals. Our goals are still steadfast. We are using this information to create a strategic instructional 5-year plan, which we will be bringing to you probably next month. Again, aligning what we're trying to do in instruction, making sure that we keep all of the great things that we already have, because we continue to build on our instructional scope and sequence, on our materials, and just keep that focus on making sure our students are empowered to become global leaders. Mr. Castillo, I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So who completed the mission statement? Was it collaboration of the leadership of
We-
your departments or?
With management and then Ms.
We
Lessa.
worked cabinet together, and then we brought it to management. We made sure that everybody saw it, everybody gave input, so that we could,
Was there any consideration given to the mission in including including the term educational potential instead of learning potential?
the reason that we went with learning potential is because that, whenever we've had any meetings with TEA, that is what they focus on. That is what they ask us, so how is the student meeting their learning potential? And so that's why we wanted to make sure
Well,
that
it makes
we're
sense to me
aligned.
that we're an educational business, so that's why I would have used that term. But I'll defer to TA. If that's what they want us to do, we'll do it that way.
Be more in line with the Tech Edge agency.
Yes, yes. And we've been working with especially the Resilient Schools Support Program, the RSSP, and again, they're also looking at, so how are you making sure that every student is meeting their learning potential? So that's why we went with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, item B, approval of low attendance day waivers for May 25th, 26th, and 27th, 2022.
Good evening once again, members of the board. And I am looking for this one. After the tragic events that had occurred in Uvalde, Texas, many parents in our community were apprehensive about bringing their children to school. As a result, we monitored the particular attendance rates the last 3 days of our school year. Unfortunately, I could not bring them all to you all because there has to be a 10% variance by each campus from previous year outline. And so when I called TEA to ask for specific guidance on this, I was told that I would have to submit individually to you all by date and so forth, because if we do not meet the 10% threshold by particular campus. On May 24th, there were 17 schools that were at or above the 10% threshold. And so these are the following schools: Johnson, Salvador, Washington, Perales, Middle, Clark, Salinas, Juarez, Prada, Borchers, Colonel Santos, Arndt, Centeno, Malakoff, Fasken, Killam, Veterans, and San Isidro. So those are the ones that we can request a waiver for that particular day on May 25th, which was the day after the Robb Elementary shooting.
Just out of curiosity, what would be the reasoning? I guess, what do you highlight?
We look at safety, sir. They look at there's weather-related, safety issues.
Even though it's
Yes, sir.
200 miles away,
It
I
impact-
understand it. I think that shocked the nation, but.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just, I mean, what,
I could put others, sir, and I would put the apprehension by parents
have you
on.
seen that approved in the past?
Yes, sir. When I did call, the numerous school districts across the state were submitting their waivers.
Okay.
Now, I do want to share with you, and I know Mr. Gonzalez will probably share with you, that Mr. Perez has a deadline to submit these particular waivers prior to next week. So we may be asking for a special call meeting so that we can hopefully get this on time and not lose these additional funds for you all.
Mr. Perez is going to try to get an extension on there.
But just in case, it's imperative.
Other duties as assigned. Other duties as assigned.
On the following day, which was May 26th, we had 22 campuses impacted by attendance. And so we look at that. And on the final day of our school year, May 27th, which was an early release day, that had probably had a little bit more as well. But in this situation, all of our campuses failed to meet the 10%. Well, all of them were above the 10% threshold. And so our attendance rate on that particular day was 73%. And so that was across the district, and that's low, considering that our average was at 97.5 from previous year.
And you've excluded any of the COVID reporting, all those other
Yes, sir.
issues that
If you were online, you were still.
you're still,
in attendance.
Yes, sir.
okay.
Is there one particular reason that the parents didn't send them, or did you canvass the parents, or
We had
is
gone-
that too much to ask?
You gauge it, sir, more than anything else by the calls we receive. And so we know that our switchboard, and
nonstop.
It's all over Facebook, you can see,
Yes.
no voy a mandar a mi hijo.
and so you gauge it by that. And so
And then the rumors and things that they just start.
that there was going to be other attacks and other incidents that were occurring, copycat situations and so forth. So I want to remind you that on August 2nd, and I know we will have our safety committee meeting. I know that 2 members of the board are involved in that. So we are moving forward with our emergency operations plan for review, and then we'll present present those plans to you all at the August board meeting, where it covers a lot of the processes and procedures that we have in place. Just to reiterate to our parents, we have a lot of systems in place. You all have invested, the board, the bond election, and so forth, with regards to how we have hardened our schools. So parents want to hear that, and we understand that. And so I know that Ms. Morales had an event today with our parents in Laredo PD, and so parents are asking, and they want to be, I guess, a little reassured with regards to that. We are in the process of working on videos with Mr. Gonzalez, with Susan Carlson's department as well, to promote our procedures that we have in place, getting responses from, or getting our articles submitted to the Laredo Morning Times for publication, and of course, our Parent Connection. And so we want to get that word out as much as possible of what we are doing to harden our schools in that sense, and to hopefully reassure some parents, our parents, who are hesitant to bring our students in and not have this situation again. But I know it's hard. I know it's hard because situations, of course, are very different nowadays.
Mr. Montemora and Mr. Castillo, just for the record also, alongside the school safety, we're also looking at different departments. In particular, I mean, every single department that has like a building. And we'll talk about one we discussed on yesterday morning was our athletics. We had Bobby Cruz present his presentation on what we do, what would happen in the SAC if something happened during the football game. So we're revising even those procedures, and CNI will have theirs. And Enrique Rangel and his department is going to have theirs. I mean, a shooter can be not only at a campus, it can be at a department, so we got to be ready. So we're revising, we're working really in every single department, because not just the students, all our stakeholders within UISD. So we're working on that.
It can happen at any parade routes, grocery stores now, schools.
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
Events. So yeah, it's quite a variety of it can be a target anywhere, So, and I go back to the arrest of one individual not too long ago at Kruger
Yes,
Field during a
Practice game.
Scrimmage game.
So weapon and just that kind of
So
situation can get blown out of proportion.
We are going to tighten our procedures with regards to identifications. And so, in case you hear, one of our recommendations is going to be no ID at any school, then you don't go in. Even if you're Javier Montemayor, board member coming in, you have no ID, you don't come into the school. And so that's something that we have to reiterate and train. And of course, our staff has to be on the lookout for the IDs or the passes. Another item is we got a little lax on our clear bag policy at our events. And so we are coming back and promoting that and actually adhering to that. So it's a bag no bigger than your palm of your hand or your hand, and clear bags if it's a large policy. That's what happened at Kruger Field, sir. It was in a diaper bag.
Well, I go back to situations where we're celebrating.
Yes, sir.
I was at Troutman Elementary, end of the year, graduations, these young kids, and I think about it now, fast forward after what happened, and yeah, our security was lax. It's not personnel, it's just parents were coming in, perhaps teachers were opening the door while they're packing their vehicles up, and I'll hold the door for you, I'll leave the door open for you while you go and take your thing. So all these simple things that we can do.
We're bringing in our guidelines to you all so that you can review, where we will have not necessarily a policy, but a guideline, administrative regulation with regards to all doors are locked,
All the time.
period. Whether it be interior doors, those are locked with magnetic strips, and the exterior doors as well. And looking at the process and the procedures that we would have. The other item I want to share with you all, in case you're going to get the calls, is we will not allow lunch deliveries to be made. More so because it's just high volume traffic at the campuses. And I've been asked, and something to discuss, is that parents are pulling out their children. There's just a lot of distraction and just the sheer number to bring in. If you have a campus of 3,000 students, I'll give you, for instance, United High School, you have parents taking lunch at least in an hour, you'll have at least 400 parents, 500 parents taking lunch to their kids. And so how do you monitor the ins and outs of that? So we have closed schools for a reason. And so that's something that we will consider. We will discuss with our safety committee. We will bring those to you all, the recommendations to you all. And that happens at every one of our schools. Of course, United High School being the largest high school, but it happens at the elementary schools, it happens at the middle
We will get
schools.
the calls.
Yes, sir, you will.
I've had to address those calls before. And
You will.
so- And that's one of the reasons why we asked that item be placed on the agenda to discuss
Yes.
our security, more than anything, our security policies in place, and how we can, as board members, how we're going to be able to deliver that message to the employees. We've spent millions of dollars on safety and security, on
Yes,
police
sir.
department, upgrades and
There are certain things that have to be done prior to the start of the school year. Attended a webinar this afternoon at lunchtime through TEA, and so you'll be hearing about the audits, the safety audits that we will have to conduct prior to the start of the school year. We have to check doors, locks, panels, everything has to be implemented or checked and verified prior to August 10th. So we will be strategizing to see how we can cover our 52 sites, and even our campuses and our district sites as well.
Have y'all designated a person within their district to conduct our own in-house audit?
Yes, sir. Actually, not necessarily a person, it's a group.
A group? Okay.
Yes, sir. So those are the
The checklist that they have.
the safety audits, so it's quite extensive, and so those are done every 3 years. And so we have our risk management department who are coordinating those efforts at the high school level. I'm doing the departments, and it involves law enforcement as well from our own. But we are looking at bringing in, after we met with our safety committee, they want to be part of it. So we have FBI agents. I know that Special Agent Leal, I believe, has reached out to us. He wants to be on the committee to audit. And then, of course, the state is also bringing in surprise audits, safety audits that we don't know at random. And so they may pick a few of our schools on a given day, and they will be conducted. And of course, we welcome that. Of course, we just want to hear what we can do differently for the safety and security of our students and staff members.
I know that 100% of our districts are going to be audited. 75% of the schools,
Yes, sir.
campuses are going to be,
Yes, sir.
checked, so.
We have to submit everything prior to September 9th, sir, I believe, everything to the state of Texas. So we are on the fast track conducting those particular audits.
When
And
is
we'll
that meeting that you are?
August 2nd, sir, is the safety and security meeting.
Safety and security, and I'm going to throw a monkey wrench on this, but maybe Jaime might also be able to elaborate. Been hearing a lot on media regarding prayer. And do you have any guidance on that, how it can impact us, or what it will do to crowd control, to
You're
take-
probably talking about the Supreme Court case from a couple weeks ago. I think I sent a client alert to you all. We're going to be going over that, Stephen and I, in our July trainings, which are going to be taking place on the 25th, and we invite any trustee that wishes to attend. It's going to be going over the course of 2 days. That case in particular, its scope is still unknown, but what I can summarize it as holding is really private prayer is allowed, as it has been generally for decades, under the Lemon v. Kurtzman Supreme Court case that was thrown out by the Kennedy versus Bremerton ISD case. They came down a couple weeks ago, a 6-3 decision. Public prayer is still not constitutionally acceptable. I believe that would be a violation of the Establishment Clause. But the interesting thing about that case was it was construed as a private prayer, even though the coach was praying at midfield with a group of students and community members. But I think as far as prayer, as long as it's done privately, as it has been for many, many decades, it'll still be constitutionally allowed, but there's going to be no public prayer. I would advise that no public prayer be
Only
be
just
allowed.
meet at the poll on certain days.
Not
That's-
during the morning announcement.
Not during the morning, that's correct.
Just a moment of silence.
And exactly, that's one of the reasons, as a board, when we have our meetings, we advise after the pledge and the Texas
moment of
salute.
silence.
A moment of silence, correct.
And I bring it up only because while I haven't received any calls, I anticipate that it could become something that people want to do or think about doing. Not sure how we're going to handle it, but
Case by case.
Case by case by case.
Okay. Item C, approval of optional flexible school day program for 2022-2023 school year to continue the positive approach to student success program at Lyndon B. Johnson High School and United South High School.
This is not a new program. It is a program that we have adopted at the campus for LBJ. It's year 5. This would be year 2 at United South High School. We provide Mr. Montemayor and Mr. Castillo the opportunity for our students a flexible school day schedule. This is the application. The PowerPoint was inadvertently left off, but there's certain criteria that students would have to meet. Number 1, they are at-risk students. Number 2, they have dropped out of school. We bring them back, or they are at risk of dropping out or losing any type of credit for the school year. And so we have 2 shifts for our students, 2 dedicated teachers at each of these schools. And so we go from 8 to 12 or from 12:30 to 4:30. And during this past school year, 6 students were recovered at United South High School and 6 students at LBJ High School who were enrolled in this particular program. Other students were enrolled, but these are the particular students who met, because there may be sophomores and juniors who we don't want them to fall further behind, and so they are in this particular program. It is only at LBJ and United South High School because that is where we have our larger
Dropout.
at-risk and dropout rate in numbers.
Well, if you can save 1, that's successful.
So we
program.
saved 12, sir, and that's what I
That's
mentioned.
good.
That was successful.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Castillo?
No, sir.
D, approval of memorandum of understanding between United ISD and Webb County for their Head Start, Early Head Start, Pre-K-4 teaching program at Veterans Elementary, Zaffarini Elementary, Pettis Elementary, Prada Elementary, Art Elementary, Newman Elementary, and Freedom Elementary.
Not all of the MOUs are attached here. I know that the attorney for the county is working on these particular MOUs, but I did want to bring them to you for approval. They are basically the exact same.
Exact same thing.
Yes, sir. And so what we have established a partnership for our pre-K 4-year-old programs in these particular schools. Not all of them are up for renewal, but there are other sites as well. And so what we look at is the Head Start program pays for $25,000, the salary of our teacher. Then they bring in 2 paraprofessionals in the classroom, and then they also bring in social workers and a parent liaison as well.
There's no
I'm sorry, what's the qualification to get a school or a Head Start program at a particular campus?
We look, sir, at the demographics, the demographic makeup. There has to be a larger percentage of about 60% of low socioeconomic or economically disadvantaged students. Limited English, and I know it's not the term anymore.
No, emergent bilingual.
Emergent bilingual student as well. And in some cases, there are a certain percentage of students that Head Start takes. It's only 10% per site that they take, which they call your special education or your high income, who would qualify for other areas as well.
Doesn't it serve also as an attraction? Parents are looking for pre-K-4, programs.
Yes, sir.
And, I'm just curious why I see Newman, and that is pretty similar to Clark, and I just don't understand.
Well,
why.
Newman, sir, is the one, it houses and it has housed Clark probably for about 6 years now. So Clark and Gutierrez Elementary do not offer pre-K programs at their school.
So we cluster them.
We have clustered them, and Newman has been the cluster site.
And is that included in their numbers as
Yes,
far
sir.
as enrollment?
Yes, sir.
So without that, without these students,
They'll
there's,
be even smaller.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And what we're doing for the 22-23 school year is that we have opened Newman as the north site, because we are still about 8 campuses who are not offering full-day pre-kinder, and we'll bring that information to you all next month once we complete. I need a waiver for full-day pre-kinder, because this is a year that we should have been offering full-day pre-kinder in all of our schools. But the partnership has been a collaborative with Head Start. It has been feasible for us, and more importantly, it has been really great for our students, because, we know that 4-year-olds are little sponges and they will
Well,
saturate.
you may want to, once that new school is built, just like any other new school is built, you're going to get a larger population of kids wanting to attend those schools because it's a brand-new school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to have that situation with Clark, so at
We'll
some
look some-
point, you may want to look at
Look.
including them.
The good thing, Newman has a whole wing, sir, for pre-K. Bathrooms in the classrooms, everything else.
District 5 can do wings too.
Maybe pre-K 3, sir.
Bueno, pre-K 3, we'll open it up.
Well, we're looking at that, and that's a
That
target.
was my point.
That's a target, sir.
That I wanted to continue to expand the programs if necessary to all areas, to all of our districts, just because the parents do call and ask, it's too far to go to Newman.
Yes, sir.
I can't make it all the way. I think we mentioned this, and by the way, I want to applaud your presentation to the vendors or prospective vendors. You did a great job.
Thank you,
And
sir.
to me, it actually helped me understand what we're doing. And of course, the younger we start the student, the better it is.
More success.
The long run to get them acclimated to a school environment, to learning, to socializing. And we do need, you know that, we need more socialization at times with our students, and the COVID has prevented a lot of that. But needless to say, what I'm trying to point out is, yes, I would like to see more expansion. My understanding is that there's actually nothing changing here, correct? Because from last year's, the same MOU that we're doing, with what exception?
Well, it's not necessarily a Head Start collaboration, but we have added at the district level, Muller Elementary and the Mines Road area
Okay.
as a standalone site.
Nice, okay.
And so we try to chip off at least one or two sites every year, so that because this was a year, by 22-23, every single one of our campuses has to offer, or had to have offered, full-day pre-kinder. And so we're not there yet, specifically in these northern schools, where it's less students who attend economically disadvantaged.
That's why I was asking what the criteria was to get
Yeah.
into or get a Head Start program, attached to your campus.
And we also have to remember that pre-K still has to meet qualifications,
Sure.
the 5 qualifications that the,
Program has.
yeah.
I can see, like, for example, Colonel Santos or San Isidro, Nye Elementary, those, Troutman Elementary, you probably are not going to have a lot of
Head
that-
Start.
a lot of those individuals meeting that criteria.
Right.
But certainly, I think Clark and Newman are very similar in.
Yes, sir. That's why the site is at Newman. And you're right. That's why we have not been able to expand on necessarily the collaborative with Head Start at these other sites, because we just, for example, we had to tweak Zaffarini. They're clustered with Bonnie Garcia, where we had to reduce teachers at Zaffarini because they are not eligible for the Head Start criteria. And so they're eligible for pre-kinder, but not necessarily for Head
And still
Start.
waiting for, what, the 3-year-olds also in the future? Is
We have
that
not started
where
the
we're
3-years.
going?
We have not started yet.
Not yet. Next year?
We call it.
Well, we have to do all of the,
We have to do all of the pre-K 4, all full day first.
Before we go into
Before we
third,
go
yeah.
Okay,
to the
so do
pre-K
we
3.
get an exemption, or it's just not necessary to do anything about the
nothing,
3-year-olds?
no exemptions are required for 3-year-olds. The requirement is for the 4-year-old full-day program.
Okay, because in what I was reading, it does indicate that 3-year-olds eventually have to get enrolled half-day. Am I wrong?
Not eventually.
Not right.
It's not right now. It's not
Not right
required.
Not required,
No, sir.
but it's coming.
May offer. You may,
offer.
May.
you may. And a lot of it is contingent on space, sir. I'll be upfront with you. A lot of it is contingent on space availability.
We have a lot of space at Clark, man.
Yes, sir. I got it, sir. I got the hit, sir.
And that's another point. That's another point that I've always considered. We did have a reduction of our student
Enrollment.
population. I would have thought we've had an empty classroom somewhere that, in every school, to do it ourselves.
Well, and I do have to say that now that we have the vaccine available for our younger students, which are our pre-K, we are expecting to see the enrollment get better.
Right.
To where we were pre-pandemic. That is an expectation. So again, we're looking at, I think we've had about 400 new enrollment that were enrolled with us last year. So, we're also making sure that we're gauging that to ensure that we've got everything we need for all of the students that are enrolling.
So by October, we should have 42,000.
I'm hoping.
43,000.
I'm only for 40, sir. 41.
All right, to move on.
Yes, sir.
Item E, first reading of TASB Update 119, I think we've already
This is local, sir. These are the
local
local,
one.
this is first reading. I do have to make a recommendation with regards to two policies. The first policy, CPC local, it's all information on electronic records. DMA is a policy that we will have to pull out and bring to you in first and final reading because it is the professional development plan, and they are requiring, TEA is requiring that we get that approved by August 1st, and then our professional development plan along the schedule as well. The other one, EHAA local, when I look at that one, that is all through Senate Bill 9, and you've heard maybe last month, 2 months ago, where we had the SHAC, the curriculum that we were presenting to you all with regards to prevention of child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. That is all new information at that particular policy. On EHBMI, I just looked at this one once again, and this one also has to be approved by August 31st, so I will pull this one out as well, because I would rather, we'll make it by August 15th unless you want to go ahead, the curriculum and the special programs with this particular area. EHBAA is a new policy and basically saying that the district, it's for special education identification, our child find program, we shall develop and implement an IEP program by the child's 3rd birthday. And so if they come, of course, we'll develop that particular IEP for our students. And so the rest are also with regards to programs, specific programs for our students. And the last policy has to do with freedom from district discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. We'll go back and read these, review these, but those would all be for first reading only. All right.
And last, item F, approval of appraisers for the 2022-2023 school year.
Good evening, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Castillo, Mr. Gonzalez, and members of the audience. I'm here again, a yearly process, what we do every year. We're here to recommend the appraisers that will appraise our teachers for T-tests. So before you have a list of all the appraisers that have been approved, completing their T-test training.
All right, thank you. Questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Canales.
Thank you.
And the last item, adjournment. We are adjourned.
So moved.